friends. I'm Dr. Molly Brinkman. I'm a small animal veterinarian near Nashville, Tennessee. And this is a show for people who love their pets, like to laugh, and realize that life is hard, but dogs and cats help. I love veterinary medicine. I'm probably already obsessed with your pet, and I want you to understand more about both of those things. So, welcome to the Dr. Molly Says podcast. Hello, people. We have a hot take to talk about today. Hope everybody's doing good. This is really shouldn't be a hot take, so it's really more like a public service announcement. But this is something I talk about on my page sometimes, and it's sort of a pet peeve soapbox of mine because it drives me a little bit bananas. So, if you are a pet owner, dog or cat owner, and you have ever looked into your options for getting them spayed or neutered, you may realize that there are options in many parts of the US and many towns and cities of local organizations or even government funded locations where there's low cost spay neuter programs and low cost vaccination programs. And so, like here where I live and practice, we have a really nice publicly funded animal center, and like animal control, animal center, and they have low cost spay neuter programs. And I see people online often in like Facebook groups or other chat groups or just in general talk about how they feel like the cost that they were quoted from their local veterinarian's office to get their pet spayed or neutered seems too high to them. And so then they start looking for other options, and they maybe come across something like a local low cost spay neuter program. And they may speak publicly about why is it only $100 there and my vet's charging $600, $800, whatever. And I do see in public forums people complaining about that and also sort of like shopping around to try to find that cheaper option. And it does, some of that bothers me for a lot of reasons. So this is my pet peeve. If you have a dog or a cat and you aren't experiencing any kind of financial hardship, especially if you have like a dog that you purchased from a breeder and you spent hundreds or thousands of dollars on that dog, you are just really not the intended client for low cost spay neuter programs. It's not like bargain shopping. It's not like, oh, I found a deal at the bargain hunt for this procedure. Those programs exist for population control to make sure pets are cared for at an affordable cost so that that kind of care is accessible to everyone. Meaning most of these programs are intended to help people who otherwise couldn't afford to have their family veterinarian spay or neuter or vaccinate their pet. And I think this is something that sometimes people just don't actually realize, because I do see sometimes in these like Facebook groups, people talking about this and they're like, well, I got this done here and it was so cheap and it was great. And I think sometimes people just actually don't realize. But if you go to a low cost spay neuter program and that spay or that neuter only costs you $100 or $45 or whatever, that's not because that's all the procedure costs. And that doesn't mean that your veterinarian could only charge that. Most of those programs are subsidized either by private funding or by some type of government funding. And so that's the only reason that procedure only costs that. Another reason the cost can be lowered is because in many scenarios, not all of them, but especially truly low cost spay neuter programs, the way that surgery is done, the actual like protocols that are used to get patients done, get them through anesthesia, can be very different from what happens at your veterinarian's office. And I think that's something that's important for people to realize. Doesn't mean what they're doing is wrong or inappropriate. It's just not always the same level of care that you would get at your vet's office, which is another reason why it costs more. They may not be running pre-op blood work. They may not be tailoring anesthetic protocols to specific patients. They may not have the same type of monitoring. They may not be giving patients IV fluids during their procedures, things like that. And they're all different. So some do and some don't. But that's just another thing I think it's important for people to realize why it may cost less. And then on top of that, the actual cost is being covered by government funding or private donations. So it's just, I know I don't work in shelter medicine. I have friends that do, and I speak to them about this, and they do. They have shared with me that it's very frustrating. They're working really hard. They make less money usually than their GP or ER or specialty counterparts. And I think it's frustrating when affluent individuals pull up in fancy cars with dogs they spent thousands of dollars on from a breeder to get like a deal on getting them spayed. And I do think sometimes it's because those people don't realize, but of course, just like there's a bad apples everywhere, I do think sometimes people take advantage of that. And I think maybe what they don't realize is them taking that spot for that low cost spay neuter is taking up a spot that a pet that really only has that as an option would need. So anyway, that is my public service announcement. You may not be the intended audience for a low cost spay neuter program. And especially if you have a dog that you purchased for thousands of dollars and you are not experiencing some type of financial hardship, those programs just really are not intended for you. And then also, your veterinarian's office is not just charging more than that because they can. They're charging more because it does cost them more. They do not have funding from private donors or government funding to cover the cost of that surgery. Okay, that's my soapbox. Let's get into the Twilight Bark. What are we talking about today? So we're going to do another breed episode, which I hope y'all are excited about. You have been enjoying these so far. We've done a couple different dog breeds. We're going to do another very popular dog, and that is the Golden Retriever. Who doesn't love a Golden Retriever? Goldens are very popular dogs in the United States of America. Lots and lots of people and families have Goldens. I would say they are one of the most beloved dog breeds here and in many other parts of the world. There are a lot of reasons for that. Goldens are funny dogs. They are super happy-go-lucky dogs in general. Not all of them, but a lot of them. They are usually have great temperament and they make great family dogs overall. So I love Golden Retrievers for the most part as my patients. I have several Golden patients who are very near and dear to me. So let's just jump right in. I'm going to tell you all about the Golden Retriever breed. So I like to talk about the origin of the breed. So the Golden Retriever originated in Scotland in the 1860s. This is funny. Lord Tweedmouth, that's not a Scottish accent. Lord Tweedmouth is who created the Golden, apparently. So this was a man, I assume, who wanted a hunting companion who could retrieve birds on both land and water. So Tweedmouth, what a name. So how did they create the Golden Retriever? So they bred a yellow wavy coated retriever with the Tweed Water Spaniel, which is now an extinct dog breed. They later added in Irish Setter and Bloodhound into this like breeding development. And so the result is, over a lot of time, the Golden Retriever we know now. So the intent was to have a water-loving retriever with a soft mouth, they called it, meaning they could carry birds and more fragile game in their mouth without crushing them or, I guess, ruining meat. And water-loving, I think I said that, and athletic. So the early 1900s is when the Golden Retriever reached the United States of America, and the breed was recognized by the AKC in 1925. So the Golden Retriever is consistently one of the top 3 most popular AKC breeds and has been for decades. Many people, when you think of what's the all-American family dog, a Golden Retriever is what comes to mind. We can think, anybody here my age can think of multiple Golden Retrievers who have been popular dogs in shows and movies. If you don't cry when Shadow walks through the tree clearing in Homeward Bound, something is wrong with you. Air Bud, if you've never seen the Air Bud movies, Buddy was the Golden Retriever, the main character in those movies. I think I saw somewhere that they're making a new Air Bud, so they're looking for a new buddy. And then Comet was the family dog in Full House, if you're old like me and you watched Full House growing up. I need someone to tell me, is there a golden retriever on the new Fuller House? Anyway, so they're very popular dogs. Lots of people want to have a golden retriever. Let's talk about their temperament. And this is why they're so popular. In general, Goldens are very friendly, affectionate dogs. They tend to love everyone. They make terrible guard dogs. They will probably, if an intruder comes in your house, they probably will, ask them if they have a treat for them and lick their hand. So they're known for being intelligent dogs, and they certainly can be. They're dogs who thrive with positive reinforcement. So it is easy to hurt a golden retriever's feelings, but it is also easy to make their day, and they will respond very positively to positive reinforcement. And what's funny about golden is that in general, they just want your love and affection and attention. They would love a treat as well, but they just want you to love them. They're like, love me. And so, giving them some attention, a pat on the head, a pet is a reward to them. They can be high energy dogs. When I was prepping for this episode, I saw a term I've never heard before. They're a Peter Pan dog. Have you heard of this? Labs are this way a lot. They just don't, some of them never calm down and act like an older dog for a long, long time. And so they can be like puppy level energy for 3 to 4 years. And can be true of many golden retrievers. Like I said, they are not natural guard dogs. Do not get a golden retriever if that's what you're wanting. And they can be clingy with their owners. They can get very attached to their owners and deal with some separation anxiety. I would say one misconception about golden retrievers, and something that sometimes I think people get them not realizing, is that they aren't necessarily a low maintenance pet. So they do love you. They love you, and they want to be around you. They want your attention. They want to be social. So they do need interaction. They need daily interaction. Socialization with other dogs is really helpful for them, but they need some attention. So, they don't necessarily make a good dog who you want to just like lay around in your house and not really care about what they're doing or who's around them. When it comes to breeding and health testing, so this is a big thing. This is what I'm really wanting to talk about in a lot of breeds and then in general. But because golden retrievers are very popular, they are also a popular dog to be bred. So there's a lot of golden retriever breeders out there. And as you all know, I talk about this a lot. They're not all created equally. And some people, very much like adopt, don't shop. And I totally understand that sentiment. But if you are wanting to find a golden retriever, there are golden retriever rescues out there. But if you are looking to buy a golden retriever from a breeder, they are absolutely not all created equally. And you can definitely get poorly bred golden retrievers and unethically bred golden retrievers. And as a breed, they do have some significant health issues that we need to be concerned about. And so when you mix that with poor breeding, it can be a recipe for disaster. So I wanted to kind of walk through, if you are going to shop for a golden retriever from a breeder, there's some things that you want to look for that breeder is doing. So one really important thing is that Goldens are prone to orthopedic disease, very prone to hip dysplasia. They can have elbow issues, knee issues. And so you're going to want to find a breeder who knows about OFA testing or pin hip testing. These are the two like gold standard ways to test for hip dysplasia, elbow dysplasia. And so you don't want a breeder to just tell you, "Oh yeah, we'll have our vet check them out before you buy them." They need to know what they're talking about. If you ask them about, do you OFA and or pin hip test your dogs? They should immediately know exactly what you're talking about, and they should absolutely do that. A veterinarian should take x-rays under sedation, send those, get them tested with OFA or pin hip, and they should have results. They should have registered, certified results from those organizations. And these are tests that they're doing on the parents of the puppies that they're going to be selling. It is also a responsible thing to be testing parents for cardiac disease. There is known golden retriever incidences of what we call subaortic stenosis. And so detecting these congenital problems with an echo, an ultrasound of the heart is really ideal. So parents, golden retriever parents, before they're bred should be tested for that with a board certified cardiologist or radiologist. There is eye testing that is also recommended. It's called the CAER ophthalmologic exam on these dogs, on the parents. So this looks for hereditary cataracts, pigmentary uveitis, and other issues that Goldens can have. And this should be done, again, by a board certified ophthalmologist. There's other DNA testing that can be done in Golden Retrievers for different conditions, including PRA, a condition called ichthyosis, and degenerative myelopathy. So anytime you're going to use a breeder, there should be extensive testing of the parents before they breed them. But in Golden Retrievers specifically, these are actual tangible tests that you can look for. If you are looking at Golden Retriever breeders, there are red flags to look for. Again, OFA results should be able to be seen online. Just a vet clears them, not the same as an OFA. There are some color breeding in Goldens that can be a red flag. So English creams or other rare golden colors can indicate less than standard of care in breeding. And any breeder should offer some type of health guarantee and should be really talking to you a lot, should be talking about a contract. There should just be a lot to it. It should not be easy to buy a dog from a breeder, a golden retriever especially. One reason it's especially important in Goldens that we're being very picky about where we get these dogs if you're going to buy them from a breeder is that they do have a lot of health concerns as a breed. There's a lot of genetic lines of golden retrievers that have issues. There's concern for some inbreeding that makes those more common. And I think it's important for people to know that if you get a golden retriever, these are some concerns that you can run into. And I'm going to get the really bad one out of the way first, which is that golden retrievers are very prone to cancer. I think any veterinary oncologist would tell you a lot of their patients are Goldens. There are different estimates that up to 60% of Goldens will die from cancer. I will tell you that the youngest patients I've ever euthanized or treated with cancer have been Goldens or golden doodles. And this means I've seen patients as young as 2 years old with cancer. Lymphoma is a common one. Hemangiosarcoma, lymphoma, mast cell tumors they can get as well, but they just are prone to cancer. And it's a heartbreaking thing, especially because they are often just the sweetest dogs. So it's something to know. It's something that I think it's important for you to realize and makes good breeding practices all the more important. Orthopedic disease, like I mentioned, they're prone to dysplasia of their hips and their elbows. They can get cruciate, craniocruciate ligament disease, which we've talked about here. So they can tear their CCLs, which requires surgery. They're very prone to allergies and skin issues. A lot of them have recurrent ear infections, often because of underlying allergies. I do see these dogs with food allergies, and they're some of the poster children for hypothyroidism, which is an endocrine disorder of the thyroid gland. We see a lot of Goldens with that. There's been a lot of studies. There's a lot of research about golden retrievers because of these things. Researchers try to learn a lot about cancer and other diseases and just about dogs in general because Goldens experience a lot of these issues. The largest canine cancer study to date was performed on over 3,000 golden retrievers, which was a Morris Animal Foundation study. Okay, so those are basically the negatives, right? So they can have some behavioral issues. They're not low maintenance dogs. They do need socialization. A lot of them need some training. A lot of them are very high energy. They need activity. They probably need something to do. They need some exercise. They need some interaction, and they can be quite social. But there's a lot of really great things about them. Grooming is another thing to mention. Not necessarily a negative, but just something to be aware of that's required. They can have a double coat, and so they will shed a lot. So if you don't want hair everywhere in your house, don't get a golden retriever because you will have it. There are just tufts of golden retriever hair all over houses that have them. They need to be groomed or brushed at home at least regularly. And like I said, they can shed a lot and need to be brushed out because of that. They are definitely prone to being overweight dogs. They love to eat, and this just worsens their already prevalent joint issues and orthopedic disease. Something I always tell people with golden retriever puppies is because they are large breed dogs, they grow quickly. It's important that as puppies, they're on diets that account for them being big dogs that have some orthopedic issues. So you want their puppy diets. Often, I'm going to recommend that they're on a large breed specific puppy food for at least the first year of their life. And then, you are probably going to know your vet pretty well with a golden retriever. Some of them are pretty low maintenance, but we do see a lot of Goldens all the time in the clinic for medical issues as well. I think because we know they're more prone to cancer, it's important if you have a golden retriever to be cognizant of that and talk to your vet about early cancer screening, signs of cancers, and imaging blood work starting at a young age. All right. Should you get a golden retriever? I think a golden retriever is a great idea if you want, especially if you're looking for a dog that consistently is a friendly, easygoing, can make a great family dog. I think they're a really good option. I think they can be very trainable, but it does often take some work and effort because they do have a lot of energy but they're eager to please. And so they can make really wonderful family companions. And, there's exceptions to every rule, but in general, they're very tolerant of children. And a lot of families have children who grow up with golden retrievers and think of them fondly. Ryan, my husband, his family had a golden retriever, Ruby, for a really long time. And she was a really wonderful dog who made just the best family dog. Now, they lived in South Florida and she swam in the pool every day and, ran around chasing lizards. So they do, I think, need some kind of outlet to get some of that energy out. They can make a great active dog, like an active partner if you're a runner or a hiker or do a lot of outdoor activities. I think they would love to do that with you. They make wonderful therapy and service dogs. So they're one of the breeds that are very popular for that. They're used a lot in dogs that go into hospitals and nursing homes and facilities like that to help calm people. So, they are lovely dogs. They can be, but they may not be for everybody. They are big, high energy dogs. So, if you're a person, an elderly person, or you have an elderly family member who's thinking about getting a dog, I don't know that a golden retriever is the best option because they might knock you over or trip you. They are going to need some exercise. They are going to need some stimulation, and they are going to need to be going to the vet probably somewhat frequently. So they do require some maintenance. And again, they're not going to make a good guard dog. But the golden retriever is a great dog, and it's a dog I would definitely recommend for certain people. There are definitely dog breeds that someone tells me they're thinking about getting, I'm like, but the golden is not one of them. I do chat with friends and family if they're thinking about it, about all the things I just told you. I do think sometimes people believe they're going to be easier than they are. But like I said, they're eager to please. They're very trainable if you do the work. And they just want to be your most loyal best friend. So that is the golden. That was not that long because there's not a whole lot more to say because they really are a great dog. I would love to know about any questions you have. You can send them to me. You can DM me, Dr. Molly Says. You can DM us on the podcast, Dr. Molly Says Pod. We do have a link in our bio that you can reach out to us with questions. And I will see you all next week for another episode of the Dr. Molly Says podcast.